If you're just starting at home for personal use, it doesn't take a lot of money to start. You can do it with just some basic equipment. When I first started, I didn't have the nicer 5-gallon buckets. I had empty water jugs that I tied to the tree and and got the sap out that way. It's not as efficient, but it did get the job done. So you don't have to spend a whole lot of money doing it. And then as you ease into it, you'll start to refine your process more and more. When it's freezing or below freezing at nighttime, and then it's above freezing during the day, that's about the time that you want to start tapping trees. Because if you think about it, like if you were outside, you would get frostbite on your fingers if it was too cold. So the trees, their primary function right now this time of year is to give nutrients to the buds. And if the fluid stayed where the buds are for too long when it was cold, the buds would get frostbite and they would die. So as a defense, the trees take the sap and they put it down into the ground, into the roots. And in the daytime, it comes back up out of the roots and goes back to the buds. So it'll pass the tap 2 different times. So you can potentially get 2 different points of flow through the day. So we take the sap from the trees that we collected today, and then we'll start cooking it down on our stove. When you do it, you want to have a wood stove, or you want to do it outside, but it definitely, the majority of the cooking needs to happen outside, because if you do it inside, there's a 40-to-1 ratio, and if you have 39 gallons of water floating around your house, everything's going to be dripping wet, and the ceiling's going to be wet, and your wallpaper is going to come off and everything. So the majority of the cooking has to take place outside, and then usually people will finish it off inside for the final 5 or 10% that they have left. This is a hydrometer, and this is a testing cup. So whenever the viscosity of the syrup is just right, you'll put the syrup in here, and this has a calibrated weight in the bottom of it. You'll stick it down in here and it'll become buoyant. If it's too fluid, it'll sink down to the bottom, but if it's just right, it'll come up to this red line here. And that's when you know that you've got good syrup. That's when it's FDA certified to have 100% maple syrup. If the viscosity is not right, then that means that there's too little sugar in there if that sinks to the bottom. And then when you jar it, first of all, it's not going to taste right. And the second thing is it's not going to stay preserved for very long, because the sugar content is going to be a little bit lower. And your microbes and bacteria and stuff will start eating things. So it's really important to test your syrup before you start canning it and things. And this is a filter that we have for it. There's a pre-filter and our main filter. Everything that we do goes through a filtration process. We do a pre-filter before we even start cooking it to get all of the little pieces of wood and stuff out of there. And then we use these filters to take the majority of everything else out. That's about the process. And then it's just normal canning process, like a hot water bath and things. Originally, we started with a 3/4 inch pipe. And then we found out that we get just as much flow out of these little taps. We get just as much coming out of that as we did with the big pipe. And so we started using that. And originally we started with cheesecloth. You can use that as a filter. And then as we got more and more refined, we got the sort of commercial filters and things. And a lot of people think that they're gonna hurt the tree or they're gonna kill the tree by tapping into it. And as long as you aren't tapping like a sapling, you're not gonna hurt the tree at all. If that was the case, then a woodpecker would just decimate a whole forest, you know. It's so putting one tap into a tree is completely fine. And I would recommend not putting things in the tapping hole when you're done with it at the end of the year, because that will hurt the tree. The tapping holes will close up naturally on their own if you let it. After one season, they'll close up all the way. But if you stick something in there, it'll still close up, but you scarred the tree on the inside, and it won't carry nutrients through that part of the tree anymore. So you just kind of want to watch out for that. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I would say don't be nervous, don't be scared, and just get out and start doing it. It's a whole lot of fun for everybody, for the whole family.